wrapping up our Making Room for What Matters series this morning. Suburban life fills to whatever space you give it. Suburban life will expand and fill whatever space you give it. Kelly and I are in this new post-school, pre-empty nest phase of life, and we're slowly trying to declutter the house. As soon as this grad party's over, we're taking back this house. Storage areas, garages, you just know places, family life quietly piles up over the years. And what I'm learning is that clutter doesn't need a plan. Clutter only needs available space. If there's room in the garage, something will find its way there. If there's room on a shelf, something will sit there. If there's room in a bin, something will move in. And if you're not careful, eventually you will not really be using the garage anymore. You'll just be kind of managing it, moving one pile over there to get at that thing behind that pile, and then moving another pile to get, you're just shifting things around to create walkways and find things. If you got a workbench, there's nothing available. It's just stuff. Most of the stuff is not broken or totally useless. And that's what makes this kind of tricky. It's useful things. It's sentimental things. I can't throw that away. Seasonal things. Or someday we're going to need that. I will use that stationary bike. That one 2x4 that's exactly 8 inches with a nail sticking out of it, that's gonna, someday I'm gonna need that wood block. But at some point you realize that you can't just keep reorganizing. You can't just keep shifting things around. You can't just keep making better labels for the bins. At some point something has to move, something has to shrink, something has to go. And the same thing happens in life, because the calendar fills, the mind fills, the weekends fill, family schedule fills, life fills up. And if we're not paying attention, the things that matter most usually don't get rejected, right? It's never like you just say, I'm not going to do that thing anymore, that really important thing. It just gets covered over by other things. Gets crowded out. Last week we started this series talking about the junk drawer. We talked about how useful things can just be out of order. Our calendars become junk drawers, our minds become junk drawers, our souls can become junk drawers. Now at Polaris, when it comes to organizing things and spiritual formation, we use 3 words in our language: treasure, table, towel. Treasure being the friendship with Jesus itself, table being friendships with other people who are following Jesus, and towel being servanthood, because Jesus was a servant of all. And those are like the big 3 spiritual formation categories: relation to God, relation to others, and servanthood of others. Those are the 3 most important things that we need to get right if we're going to walk in friendship with Jesus. Last week was mainly about treasure, the relationship with Jesus, putting Jesus at the center. Today we're going to talk more about the table and towel aspect of reorganizing life and making room for what matters. Deep friendships with people and serving others, living open-handedly like Jesus did. And here's where this gets real and painful. If Jesus is going to be the anchor instead of an add-on, then some of the things that have been functioning as anchors in our calendar, in our mind, in our lives, some of the things that have been anchors need to get downgraded to add-on, which means they need to become negotiable so that Jesus can be non-negotiable. You can't make room for what matters only by reorganizing what fills up all the space. An anchor is a non-negotiable, and an add-on is there when it fits. And if Jesus has been negotiable there when it fits, when there's nothing else to do, that means he's been an add-on and some other things have become non-negotiables. To make Jesus an anchor, the add-ons need to become, or the anchors need to become add-ons, and that protects treasure, table, towel, the things that Jesus is doing in your life. And this is tough for suburbia. It's tough for life everywhere, because what if the people around you, what if the neighbors, what if the boss, what if the coach of the 10U team doesn't have Jesus as a non-negotiable? What does that mean when their agenda is imposed on you as non-negotiable? Well, it can mean that Jesus becomes an add-on for you. Spiritual formation in your kid becomes an add-on because the dance troupe demands non-negotiable status, or the boss demands non-negotiable status, or the social group and their view of what they want to see in you becomes non-negotiable. This is a tough battle, but we have to be intentional, or else other agendas will take over, and those most important things will get crowded out. And this is true for students on through the elderly. This is the way life works. Now, we're going to go back to the same story that we started with last week with Mary and Martha. If you missed my sermon last week, these two really work together, so I would suggest you go sometime this week and go to the at Polaris section, and you'll listen to previous sermons and catch both of them, or catch the first one if you missed it. We started with this story about Mary and Martha. Now, if you missed it, Luke was one of the authors of the Gospels, ancient Christian, who wrote one of the biographies of Jesus, and he's the only one that included this story in Luke chapter 10. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. So Mary is listening to Jesus. She's with other followers of Jesus. She's listening to Jesus. These words are important. Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She was distracted. Mary was listening to Jesus. Martha was distracted. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? She's just in there listening to you. I'm doing all the work. Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things. You're worried and upset about many things. It's almost like Jesus moves past just the immediate housekeeping. And he's like, no, you got a problem, Martha. You're worried and upset about many things. A few things are needed. Actually, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, if you're a high anxiety person, this is an important little passage here to reorganize things, because a lot of our worry, we talked about this last week, comes when we get distracted by so many things. And really, Jesus is saying, at the end of the day, life is really just about one thing. There's only one thing that really matters, and that's our friendship with Jesus. So he restructures things for Martha. Mary is at Jesus' feet. Martha is serving. Mary chose what was better. What Martha was doing was not bad, and this is the important thing. Jesus is not saying hospitality is bad. He's not saying serving is bad. He's not saying responsibility is bad. Martha opened her home. Martha's trying to care for people. Martha was doing something that mattered. The issue is not the work in Martha's hands. The issue is the order of Martha's life. The right things were not in the right places. And that's why this story matters so much for normal life. Most of us are trying to keep up with good things: family, work, school, sports, church, bills, house projects, aging parents, kids' schedules, responsibilities, really good things. But the good things still need their right place. Last week, we said that the reordered life begins at the feet of Jesus. That's treasure. Life with Jesus at the center. But treasure doesn't produce an isolated life. Sitting at Jesus' feet does not mean we disappear from people in need. When Jesus is the anchor, he makes room for table and towel. So if you look at your life and say, I'm anchored in Jesus, but you have excluded friendship with other followers of Jesus and servanthood on behalf of God, then maybe things aren't ordered quite like you think they are in your world, because Jesus makes room for table and towel. Table is deep friendships with people. It's being known and learning to know others who are following Jesus. It's making room alongside people instead of hovering around the edges of church forever. It means not just being around church, it's being a part of church. It's not just being around Polaris, it's being a part of Polaris. Towel is serving others and living open-handedly because Jesus was a servant. It's moving toward real needs with practical love. And those are not meant as catchy church slogans, treasure, table, towel. They are a part of life that Jesus forms in people. Table and towel are anchors, not add-ons. Church friendship is not just a bonus for people who happen to have open evenings. Serving real needs is not just a side project for unusually available Christians. These are part of spiritual health. And that's what I want you to hear from this today. This is all about an environment. I'm going to go off script for a minute here. Because part of me, these past couple weeks, I really wanted to do this series. And I'm kind of like, anybody who is at church the second week of summer when it's 72 degrees out probably doesn't need to hear about putting church first. But it's more than that. I feel like I need to make a little bit of corrective teaching in my own approach, because I'm a pretty laissez-faire guy, and I've never, for the past 17 years, my first 10 years in ministry, my message was consistent. Your life should be all about Polaris. Be here, serve here, give here, live here, whatever. And I had this conviction that really Jesus didn't come to make a bunch of good church members. He came to make disciples at work in the world around. But I have such a grace-oriented, laissez-faire kind of thing where I'm like, I don't take attendance, we don't take attendance. Go do your thing. So what I don't want you to hear is I'm going to make a shift, and you better be here 50 Sundays a year. You get 2. Use them wisely. I had a pastor. This is where I get into real trouble. I need to think about this. This one's okay. I had a pastor friend, an older guy. I was in my 20s, and he was probably in his 60s at the time. And we were talking about church attendance and things like that. We were talking about. I'm making this story up as I go. I'm really not. We were talking about marriage and honeymoons, where we went on honeymoon, because I was fairly newlywed, and he said, We got married on Saturday night, and then got up early, stayed up really late and got up early to go to church the next day before we flew out. I was like, why in the world would you go to church before you flew out on your honeymoon? And he's like, well, to set the tone for the church. I'm like, that's crazy. I still think that's nuts. Just so you know. Like my point is, I'm not gonna flip to this, like, before you go on your honeymoon, get to church in the morning, okay? I'm gonna be in Hilton in a couple weeks. I'm not going to church. If that works for you, go for it. Like go to church on your vacation, great. I just want you to hear my heart here. My heart here is not like, I'm not like flipping on you to where this is gonna be like, that. But here's the thing. This is what's impacted me. Number one, getting both my boys through high school and with a lot of other families and things, and you kind of see that kids are now done. Like the sports world comes to an end, and they have what was poured into them spiritually, good or bad, there or not there. But also, I run into a lot of people at Giant Eagle or wherever, store somewhere, mall somewhere, whatever. And there's that awkward thing where they haven't been to Polaris in 2 years, but I recognize them and they make it. They're like, look up, and I'm there, and they're there, and there's eye contact. And I'm like, oh shoot, he caught me. And especially if I can get their name. If I can get their name, it's great because they're like, oh wow, you remembered my name. And then they just I'm not like, where have you been? But they just start like railing, like, we had this thing's cabinets put in. But here's what it comes down to. It always comes down to like, it's not, we start going to this church and it just works great and my family's doing great and we're thriving spiritually, and it's always, we're not going anywhere and we got to get back to church and so what? It's like they're not going anywhere because they got out of the habit. The anchor became an add-on, became a not at all. The negotiable became a not at all. And they're not doing better because of it. They're not doing better because of it. And that's where I am. It's like, I'm not going to be some rigid, but I know I need to ring the bell a little more, because the truth is, when it comes to treasure table towel, that's what Jesus wants to form in your life. That's the protection of God. Treasure table towel, that's what God is developing in you. And so when you stop with, like the church is the sanctioned space where those three things best develop. That's the vehicle God created to develop those three areas in your life. And when you neglect it, it's dangerous for your soul. And it's dangerous for the soul of our kids when they don't value that. And so where I am is I'm kind of like, I got to start to ring the bell a little more. Not crazy, like I'm not, that we're not. But corrective for me means, a little bit. Like I need to talk about it a little bit. Because it's really important. Again, it's not from a judgment thing. It's not my illustration, you've been around Polaris. If like the plane's going down, and I see you grab a backpack instead of a parachute, it's not that I'm judging you, I'm just concerned. And I don't think Patagonia makes a parachute, and you might want to, I'm not judging you, I'm just concerned. And you could jump out and maybe bounce twice and live, but there's this parachute that I know about that I want you to have. That's where I am with this stuff. All right, so I think that there's a couple things that, like, when I look at why does God's movement in our life, why does treasure table towel become negotiable? Why does it slide out of anchor? I think that there's a couple things that I see in my own life too. Number one is like a recency bias. A recency bias, where the latest thing you've heard becomes the, I don't know if that's what you call it or not, but like Jesus issued his stuff 2,000 years ago. Like when he said, hey, I need to be first, And if I'm not first, you can't be my disciple. Like, that's a pretty strong, hey, I get the priority. You made a commitment if you're in this. But that was 2,000 years ago. So when we hear the more recent, whether it's your boss who's trying to create the priorities in your life, or the coach of the 10U team, you made a commitment. You better be here 6 months on Sunday mornings, because that's another one that I hear. And this is concern. This is not judgy. You know, I mean, I've been here. It's easy. We've missed 8 Sundays in a row at times over summer because of travel baseball. But we always that was their one travel sport. That was their one Sunday morning thing. But I'll run into families that are like, yeah, you won't see us for the next 6 months because travel soccer, and we made a commitment. It's like, oh, really? You made a commitment? And that becomes like it's a felt morality. Like, hey, it's a commitment. Well, Jesus said 2,000 years ago that he gets first place or nothing. That's a commitment that was already made if you're following Jesus and if you want your family and your kids to follow Jesus. And again, I'm not saying that therefore every Sunday you need to miss some Sundays, but maybe miss an average of 1 Sunday a month instead of 3. Find the balance that keeps Jesus the anchor. And the youth sport, the competitive dance, the activity, the camping trip, the whatever. Because that's the other thing is you won't see us for 3 months because we opened the camper. Oh, I know you guys are here on Sunday, those are the kinds of things that it's like, hold on, before you give up this huge chunk and make church and Jesus and the spiritual formation this negotiable. Maybe there's a recency bias that somehow you're hearing other people's demand for commitment as first just because Jesus made his through the scriptures 2,000 years ago. And then the second issue that I think produces this is we get deceived by the wrong definition of greatness. Because when you talk about success, much of suburban greatness is built around achievement, opportunity, comfort, security, success, and the successful-looking family. None of those are automatically bad. I mean, I want to look like I have it together. I want my family to look like they have it together. Achievement can be good. Opportunity can be a gift. I want my boys to work hard, to show up on time, things like that. Comfort's not evil. I want to have a good time. Providing for your family matters. Helping your kids grow matters. Giving them opportunities is fulfilling. But Jesus had a very different definition of greatness. Here's what he says in Mark 10. Jesus called them together and said, "You know those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them." Gentiles were people like far from God. Their high officials exercise authority over them. In other words, you know that big deal people like to look like they're a big deal. Not so with you. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great, this is Jesus giving his definition of greatness. That's a pretty important definition to kind of have a handle on. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life, his very life, as a ransom for many. Jesus says greatness looks like servanthood, and that cuts directly against the way many of us have been trained to think. Suburban life says greatness is having people notice you. Jesus says greatness is you noticing people that others overlook and helping them out. So if Jesus says greatness looks like servanthood, then a life with no room to serve real needs is not just busy, it's being formed by the wrong definition of greatness. So let's talk a little bit of application here. The first thing is to just kind of examine your life and say, how's treasure table towel? How's the Jesus thing going? What's my real commitment? Where has it slid into add-on? Am I anchored in the formation and the things that God is forming in me, treasure table towel, or have those things become add-ons? And it's subtle, because for some people, depending on life stage, my real family narrative is youth sports, competitive dance, athletic or academic achievement. My real anchor is entertainment and relaxation, or my job. For some people, that's the thing that has slid in, and that's keeping you from connecting with friendships of others following Jesus, because it's a leap. Like, I know, especially, I play an extrovert up here, but I'm an introvert. I hate being in gatherings where I don't know anybody. Like, the idea of taking the first step to get to know some people and be known by people, that's terrifying to me. And I mean that. So maybe that's become like the table has become negotiable because you just don't. Or for others, some of you, maybe you're in the stage where you served a lot in church, and now you're just kind of, I did my thing. I'm going to let others kind of step up and have their moment. Well, I don't think we age out of serving. You talk to Jesus about that. Like, if that's where you're at, I did my thing. You talk to Jesus whether you're allowed to age out of serving. Or, I had a bad experience in church. Well, I'm not sure that gives you a pass from treasure table towel in your life. So just kind of do some inventory. What's God saying through this to you? Real practical step now. If you go to the app and you go to @Polaris, you'll see a thing where it says sign up for text updates, and you'll see men's and women's. And like, we'll just sign up for text updates and get, one. We're not like bing, 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 just every now and then, once a week or less. We'll hit your phone with, here's an opportunity. Might be a serving opportunity, might be a relationship opportunity. Like for guys, sometimes I'll just say, hey, I'm going to be at Lizardville on Thursday this week. See you there. That kind of a thing. So sign up for the men's or the women's. And we got like 62 guys signed up for the men's text group. Ladies, you're a little behind. While I enjoy the victory, sign up for the women's text group. That's one thing you could do. And like for Tao, I think you could sign up for Kingdom Quest, like volunteer for Kingdom Quest, even if it's just one Monday. Go to the app, go to @Polaris, or go to the kids and teens section in the app, and sign up to just do something once. Kate, we'll get you trained for nothing crazy, just help make it a fun, safe night for kids. But look through the app and do something once, because even serving here, not only are you serving, but it's also a great way to get connected with some other people, to know some people and be known by people. Essentially, what I'm basically saying is, I want you to look at your life. I want you to see if things are anchored where they need to be anchored. And if not, make some adjustments. All right, the band can come up for one last closing song. And I guess I'll close with two thoughts. Number one, and I kind of said this, young families. As I have found in my life that what seems like an endless run of parental logistics, it does come to an end. You look up and it's done. And your kids will step into the world with whatever spiritual formation they have gotten in that journey. And the coach, the teacher, the other parents, they may not have a Jesus agenda for the soul of your child. And when they step into that real world with only the spiritual formation that they got, that you have given them and guided them toward, if you say no to some things that other people aren't saying no to so that you can anchor them in Jesus, when that day comes and you realize they're not going pro, they didn't get the full ride D1 scholarship, and even if they did, it really doesn't matter compared to their soul, you will be glad that you anchored their life in Jesus. And the second thing is this, Ephesians 2:10. It says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You were created to do specific good things. And it's one thing to say, I want to make room for Jesus in my life. I want to get away from the distractions and make room for Jesus in my life. That's important in and of itself. But really what we're doing is we're creating the space for God to do in and through us the things Ephesians 2:10 talks about. God to do in and through us the things we were created for. And that's what I want out of life. I want to do and experience the things that God has created for me to do and experience. I want my boys to do the things that God has created for them to do. And when we move the distractions out and stay centered and anchored around the things that we need to be anchored in, we're creating the space for God to do in and through us the things that we were created to do. And that's where true fulfillment happens as well. So this is like win-win all the way around. The only thing we lose on is the opportunities that other people are running after that aren't bringing fulfillment anyway. All right, I need to be done. Through this song, make that your prayer. Get rid of the distractions. Run after the things that God has created you for.